Commander Ji-Hai Park stood on the bridge of the EDF Observer, her dark eyes fixed on the monitor. The space battle unfolding before her wasn't supposed to be happening. Not like this. They can't do that, her first officer whispered beside her. Those are medical ships. Ji-Hai said nothing. The Mercy Fleet vessels, brilliant blue against the black of space, were decorated with the universal white cross symbol. Everyone in the galaxy recognized it. Everyone respected it. Until today, the Vexari warships, angular and predatory, fired again. Another medical ship shattered, its fragments spinning into the void. Emergency escape pods launched in all directions, but the Vexari were targeting those too. Record everything, Ji-Hai finally ordered, her voice tight. Every second. Every shot. Earth needs to see this. The Observer was a diplomatic vessel, stationed at the edge of the conflict zone between the Vexari and Orion territories. It carried no weapons. Its mission was to observe and report only. Earth had maintained strict neutrality in this war, offering humanitarian aid to both sides through the Mercy Fleet. Doctors, nurses, and medical researchers who treated the wounded without asking which side they fought for. "Commander, they're hailing us," said Communications Officer Do-Yun Ji-Hai, straightened her uniform. On screen. The face that appeared was Vexari, scaled skin, amber eyes with vertical pupils, and a lipless mouth. Admiral Kraz of the Vexari, Defense Force. "Earth vessel," the Admiral said. "Depart this sector immediately." "Admiral," Ji-Hai replied, keeping her voice steady. "You are attacking medical ships protected under Article 7 of the Galactic Compact. These actions are war crimes." The Vexari showed his teeth in what might have been a smile. "The Orions hide weapons and fighters on your medical ships. We have evidence." "That's not possible. Our ships undergo independent inspection before—" "Your inspectors are corrupt or incompetent," Kraz interrupted. "Leave now or we will consider you combatants as well." The screen went dark. "He's lying," said Do-Yun. "Our protocols are perfect. The Mercy Fleet doesn't even carry defensive weapons." Ji-Hai nodded. "Send everything we've recorded back to Earth. Encrypted channel. Priority 1. She watched the final medical ships trying to escape, their engines flaring desperately against the darkness. The Vexari ships pursued without mercy, methodical in their destruction. "Should we try to help the escape pods?" asked her XO. Ji-Hai closed her eyes briefly. "We have no weapons, no medical facilities, and barely enough life support for our own crew. We'd only give the Vexari another target." She hated the words even as she spoke them. "Our duty now is to make sure Earth knows what happened here." 3. Days later, Ji-Hai stood before the Earth Security Council in Geneva. The chamber was silent as the final minutes of footage played on the main screen. When it ended, no one spoke for several long seconds. "How many survivors?" asked Counselor. "And finally, 27, Ji-Hai replied. "Out of 812 medical personnel." The council members exchanged glances. Ji-Hai had never seen such controlled fury on the faces of Earth's leaders. "Commander Park," said Council President Bay, "thank you for your report. You are dismissed." Ji-Hai hesitated. "If I may ask, what will Earth's response be?" The council members looked at each other again. Something unspoken passed between them. "That will be decided in closed session," President Bay said carefully. Later that evening, Ji-Hai was called to a secure room deep beneath the Geneva complex. Only one person waited for her there, Director Tae-woo of Special Operations, a small man with silver hair and eyes that had seen too much. "What I'm about to tell you is classified beyond your clearance level," he said without preamble. "But you've earned the right to know." He activated a holographic display showing an asteroid in the outer solar system. "This is Prison Station Omega. For a century, Earth has kept its worst war criminals here. People whose methods were too extreme even for black ops." Ji-Hai frowned. "I don't understand." "The Council has authorized Operation Pandora's Box," Tae-woo continued. "We're offering these criminals a deal. Temporary freedom in exchange for showing the Vexari exactly why we locked them away." Ji-Hai felt cold. "You're sending criminals to fight our war?" "Not a war. A lesson. Taewoo's eyes were hard. The Vexari broke the most sacred rule of conflict. They attacked healers. Now they need to understand why such rules exist in the first place, because without them, war becomes something much darker. He showed her 7 files, scientists who created forbidden weapons, strategists who orchestrated massacres, specialists in the art of breaking enemies without firing a shot. These 7 will never see Earth again, said Taewoo, but they'll show the galaxy what happens when someone attacks our medical corps. Ji-hai stared at the files, understanding dawning. We're releasing our monsters. Precisely, said Taewoo, and God help the Vexari now. Director Taewoo walked through the cold metal hallways of Prison Station Omega. His footsteps echoed against the walls. Guards stood at attention as he passed, their faces showing both respect and fear. The prisoners are ready, sir, said security. Chief Na-young, her hand rested on her weapon. Thank you, Chief. I'll see them now. They stopped before a massive door marked only with the number 7. Behind it waited the 7 most dangerous prisoners in Earth's history. Are you sure about this, sir? Na-young asked quietly. These people, they're monsters. Taewoo nodded. Sometimes you need monsters to fight monsters. The door slid open with a hiss. Inside was a circular room with a table in the center. 7 people sat around it, each wearing a silver collar. The neural suppression collars were necessary. These weren't ordinary criminals. Taewoo took his place at the head of the table. He placed a small device in the center, and it projected images of the Vexari attack on the medical fleet. 3 days ago, he began, the Vexari Empire violated the most sacred law of warfare. They deliberately targeted our medical corps. None of the prisoners showed surprise. They had been locked away, but they understood the rules of war better than most. They had broken enough of them. I'm here to offer you a choice, Taewoo continued. Continue your life sentences here, or help Earth deliver a message the Vexari will never forget. Dr. Yoonji, a small woman with cold eyes, spoke first. What exactly are you asking us to do? Whatever is necessary, within certain limits. General Dae-ho, once Earth's most brilliant and ruthless military commander, leaned forward. His face was lined with age, but his eyes remained sharp. You want us to do your dirty work. I want you to do what you're good at, Taewoo corrected. What made Earth lock you away in the first place? Subin, the hacker who had once brought 3 governments to their knees, smiled slightly. Interesting, what do we get in return? Better conditions here when you return. Access to information, books, entertainment, better food, no more solitary confinement. Not freedom? Asked demolitions expert Hae-won. You know that's impossible, Taewoo replied. Each of you has broken too many laws, hurt too many people, but your lives can be more comfortable, and you'll have the satisfaction of using your talents for a purpose. The 7 prisoners exchanged glances. They didn't trust each other, but they all understood opportunity when they saw it. Jun-ho, the former Black Ops commander, crossed his arms. What restrictions? No direct killing of civilians, Taewoo said. Beyond that, be creative. Make the Vexari regret what they've done. Make them an example for anyone else who might consider breaking the rules of war. Dr. Min-ki, the psychologist who had developed banned mind-altering techniques, studied Taewoo carefully. You're afraid, not of us, of what happens if Earth does nothing. Taewoo nodded slowly. If we let this pass, medical ships everywhere become targets. The rules that make war slightly less horrific begin to crumble. Pilot Jin-ah, the woman who had bombed Shanghai during the last war, spoke up. So we're to be your monsters. The nightmare you unleash when diplomacy fails. Precisely. I'm in, said Yoonji suddenly. The others looked at her with surprise. She shrugged. I've been developing theories for years with nothing to test them on. The Vexari just volunteered. One by one, the others agreed. Not from patriotism or remorse, but from boredom, curiosity, or simply the desire to practice their dark arts again. Taewoo stood. You leave tomorrow. You'll have a ship, resources, and information. The rest is up to you." He turned to leave, then paused. "Remember, the goal isn't destruction for its own sake, it's to teach a lesson." "Oh, we know all about teaching lessons," Deho said softly. "The Vexari will learn that some lines should never be crossed." After Tewu left, the seven sat in silence for a moment. Then Subin laughed. "Did Earth just officially sanction us to terrorize an alien empire?" "Yes," said Minki with a small smile. "Ironic, isn't it? They locked us away for being too extreme, and now they need exactly what made us dangerous." Yunji's eyes gleamed with dark excitement. "The Vexari attacked. Healers because they thought it showed strength. We'll show them what real nightmares look like." That night, each returned to their cells for the last time. Tomorrow they would be released, not to freedom, but to do what they did best. Earth's darkest secrets, now its secret weapon. The black ship had no name and no markings. If anyone saw it, they would see only a shadow moving through space. This was exactly what its crew wanted. Inside, 7 people worked in strange harmony. They were not friends. They were not even allies. But they shared a purpose that made them dangerous. Yunji stood in her new lab watching tiny organisms grow in clear containers. These were her weapons, microscopic things that could cause fear without killing. She smiled as she adjusted the formula. "How long until they're ready?" asked Deho from the doorway. The old general had spent 50 years in prison for his war crimes, but he still stood straight and tall. 3 days, she replied without looking up. "They'll target the Vexari nervous system. Not lethal, but they'll feel like they're burning from the inside." Deho nodded. "Good. Subin has already broken into their communication systems. We can use that to spread panic." In another room, Subin sat surrounded by screens. His fingers moved quickly over the controls as he explored the Vexari networks. To him, it was like walking through an open door. The Vexari thought their systems were safe. They were wrong. "Look at this," he called to Junho, who was studying maps of Vexari territory. "Their military uses a shared command system. If we get in here, we can make their own ships fire on each other." Junho's eyes lit up. "Can you make it look like an accident?" "Better," Subin grinned. "I can make it look like they're being betrayed by their allies." Down the hall, Heiwan worked in a room filled with strange devices. Some looked like simple balls. Others resembled small animals. All were weapons designed to cause chaos, not death. "The trick," she explained to Jinnah, "is to make them doubt everything. These will release gases that affect their vision. These will create sounds that only Vexari can hear. And these," she held up a small silver cube, "will make their gravity systems fail." Jinnah nodded as she planned their flight paths. As the ship's pilot, she needed to get them in and out of Vexari, space without being seen. "I'll need a distraction for the border crossing," she said. "Talk to Min Ki," Heiwan suggested. "He's working on something big." In the strategy room, Min Ki and Deho studied Vexari culture and psychology. They weren't looking for weaknesses to kill. They were looking for weaknesses to terrify. "Their society values order above all else," Minki said. "They fear chaos more than death." Deho smiled slowly. "Then we'll give them chaos." That evening, they gathered around the main table to share their plans. Each had been a monster in their own way on Earth. Now they were combining their skills to become something worse. "We hit them in waves," Deho explained. "First, Subin attacks their communications. Then Yunji's agents target their leaders. Heiwan's devices create chaos in their cities. Minki's psychological warfare breaks their confidence. Junho's tactical strikes take out military targets without casualties. And Jinnah flies us through it all." "No killing," Junho reminded them. "That was the rule." Subin laughed. "We don't need to kill anyone to destroy them. By the time we're done, they'll wish we had just killed them instead." The ship moved silently toward Vexari space. Inside, the 7 worked day and night, preparing their attack. They argued sometimes, their strong personalities clashing, but they all shared one thing. They were the best at what they did. I've been thinking, Yunji said one night as they ate together. We're still prisoners. These collars can still hurt us if we disobey. True, said Minki. But for the first time in decades, we get to use our minds again. Isn't that worth it? Daeho looked around the table. You know what's strange? On Earth, they called us monsters. They locked us away because we broke rules, went too far, did the unthinkable. Now they need us because someone else broke the rules. Ironic, said Junho. They created rules of war to make it civilized. But war is never civilized. Jinna, who had been quiet, finally spoke. Maybe that's why we're here. To remind everyone what happens when the rules break down. The Vexari thought attacking healers made them strong. We'll show them what real strength looks like. And what real terror looks like, Heiwan added. As the ship approached Vexari space, they made final preparations. They were not soldiers or warriors. They were something worse. Scientists, strategists, and specialists who knew how to break an enemy's spirit. Remember, Daeho told them as they prepared for their first strike. We're not here to win a war. We're here to make sure no one ever attacks Earth's healers again. The black ship slipped into Vexari territory like a nightmare coming to life. The lesson was about to begin. The first attack came without warning. The largest Vexari shipyard simply stopped existing. There was no explosion, no fire, just a perfect sphere of empty space where the facility had been. The workers had been evacuated an hour before through a mysterious alarm that no one had triggered. Admiral Zorax stared at the report in disbelief. How is this possible? Our sensors detected nothing. His second-in-command shook his head. Unknown, sir. But there's more. More indeed. Across Vexari space, strange things began to happen. On 3 colony worlds, the water turned a bright blue color. It was harmless, but no one would drink it. Fear spread faster than any disease. On the Vexari homeworld, every screen suddenly showed the same image, the medical ships being destroyed. But something was wrong. In these images, it was Vexari children on those ships, not human doctors. The images were false, but they looked real. It's impossible, said the head of communications. Our systems cannot be hacked this way. But they had been, and it was just the beginning. In the military headquarters, 5 high-ranking officers suddenly began acting strangely. They became paranoid, seeing threats where none existed. They ordered ships to fire on friendly targets. When examined, doctors found traces of an unknown substance in their blood, something that affected their minds but would leave no lasting damage. Who is doing this? Zorax demanded in an emergency meeting. The humans have not declared war. Their military ships remain at their bases. An intelligence officer stepped forward nervously. Sir, we have a theory. 7 days ago, an Earth prison facility reported a power failure. 7 prisoners were missing afterward. Prisoners, common criminals are causing this chaos? Not common criminals, sir. War criminals. The worst Earth has ever produced. Being so dangerous that their own species locked them away. Zorax's scales paled. And they released them on us? On the 8th day, the weather control systems on 2 Vexari worlds malfunctioned. It rained for 3 days straight. Not water, but a clear liquid that smelled of human blood. It was harmless, merely colored water with scent. But the psychological effect was devastating. On the 10th day, gravity failed in 3 major cities for exactly 7 minutes. No one was hurt, but millions watched in horror as everything not tied down floated upward, including themselves. By the 12th day, Vexari society was beginning to crack. There had been no deaths, no serious injuries, but fear ruled everywhere. No one knew where the next attack would come from. No system could be trusted. No technology was safe. They are not fighting a war, realized Zorax as he watched his people panic. They are teaching us a lesson. On the 13th day, every Vexari communication device received the same message, spoken in perfect Vexari language. This is Earth's response to your attack on our medical corps. We have not yet begun to unleash our true capabilities. You have 24 hours to surrender those responsible and provide reparations. The message included proof that all the attacks had been carried out by just 7 individuals. 7 humans had brought an empire of billions to the edge of collapse without firing a single lethal shot. Zorax called his advisors together. What do we know about these 7? The intelligence officer displayed their files. Dr. Yunji, biological weapons expert, created diseases that could target specific genetic traits. General Dai Ho, military strategist who ordered the destruction of civilian targets to break enemy morale. Su Bin, hacker who caused 3 national power grids to fail simultaneously. Hai Wan, developed weapons that cause fear rather than death. Jun Ho, black operations commander who specialized in making attacks look like accidents or natural disasters. Dr. Minky, psychological warfare expert who broke the minds of his enemies. And Jinnah, pilot who could fly anything anywhere without being detected. All criminals? Asked Zorax. Earth locked them away decades ago for breaking the rules of warfare. They considered them too dangerous, too extreme. Zorax stared out at the stars. And they unleashed them on us because we broke their most sacred rule. In the council chamber, debate raged. Some wanted to fight back. Others pointed out a simple truth. They had no idea how to fight an enemy like this. We attacked their healers, said an old counselor. They responded not with their military, but with their monsters. The message is clear. Zorax nodded slowly. Contact Earth. Tell them we accept their terms. Far away on the black ship, 7 humans received the message. They had succeeded. Not through death and destruction, but through fear and uncertainty, weapons more powerful than any bomb. Will they keep their word? Asked Jinnah. Dai Ho nodded. They will. They've learned that some rules exist for a reason. Break them, and something worse is waiting. And now, said Yunji with a small smile, the whole galaxy will know what happens when you attack Earth's healers. The black ship turned and headed home. Their work was done. The monsters would return to their prison, but the legend of what they had accomplished would spread across the stars. Commander Jihai stood tall in her dress uniform as the Vexari delegation entered the Geneva complex. 3 months had passed since the attack on the medical fleet. 3 months since Earth had unleashed its secret weapon. Now, peace had come, on Earth's terms. The Vexari ambassador looked thin and tired. His scales had lost their shine. Behind him walked 6 other officials, all showing signs of stress. They had learned a hard lesson. The treaty is ready for signing, announced the Earth Council president. All terms have been agreed upon. Jihai watched as the Vexari signed their names to the document. It contained everything Earth had demanded. Reparations for the families of the medical workers, punishment for those who ordered the attack, and most importantly, a special clause about medical ships. Never again would anyone target healers in space. After the ceremony, Jihai found Director Taewoo standing alone by a window looking out at Lake Geneva. It worked, she said quietly. They gave us everything we asked for. Taewoo nodded. Fear is a powerful teacher. Where are they now? The 7? Back in Omega, he replied. With better rooms, as promised, access to books, entertainment, better food. Do they know what they accomplished? Yes, they know they changed how war will be fought in this galaxy for generations. Taewoo turned to face her. No species will target medical ships again. The price is too high. Jihai had read the reports, though many details were classified. 7 criminals had brought an empire to its knees without killing a single person. They had used fear instead of death, terror instead of destruction. Will we need them again, she asked. Taewoo looked thoughtful. I hope not. But the rumors are already spreading. Every species now knows that Earth keeps its monsters locked away until someone breaks the rules. A deterrent, the most effective kind. He handed her a secure tablet. On it was an image of Prison Station Omega. They're already planning improvements to their methods, just in case. Jihai studied the image. 7 people sat around a table talking and drawing plans. They looked ordinary, not like monsters at all. What happens if someone else attacks? Us? she asked. Do we release them again? That decision belongs to the Council, but now everyone knows what happens when you cross certain lines. Earth doesn't send soldiers. We simply open a certain door and stand aside. Later that day, Ji-Hai attended a memorial for the medical workers who had died. Nearly 800 names were read aloud. So many healers lost. So many lives cut short because the Vexari thought they could break the rules. After the service, she spoke with a survivor, one of only 27 who had escaped the attack. I heard rumors, the doctor said quietly, about how Earth responded. Is it true? Did we really send them? Ji-Hai chose her words carefully. Earth protected its principles. The details remain classified. The doctor nodded slowly. I worked with Dr. Yoon-ji once before what she did. Brilliant mind, terrible imagination. If she was involved? The doctor shuddered. The important thing, Ji-Hee said, is that no one will target medical ships again. That night, in her apartment, Ji-Hai received a message from Director Tae-woo. It contained one simple sentence. The Seven send their regards. She sat by her window looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, other species were hearing the story. How Earth had responded when its healers were attacked. Not with battleships and soldiers, but with 7 people who knew how to create nightmares. The galaxy was learning an important lesson. Rules existed for a reason. Break them and face the consequences. Ji-Hai thought about the 7 criminals back in their prison, but living in better conditions now. Were they heroes? No, they were still monsters. But sometimes you needed monsters to remind everyone why rules mattered. In the morning, she would return to her ship. The observer would continue its mission, watching, reporting, representing Earth. But now it carried an invisible shield. No one would dare attack it. No one would risk facing the 7 again. The attack on the medical corps had changed everything. Earth had shown what happened when its most sacred principles were violated. It didn't deploy its military. It didn't declare war, it simply released its monsters. And the galaxy would remember.